And we're back, and you are listening to Villaincast, BJJ Anti-Heroes, with myself, Chris the Villain Paynes, and Naki El Jefe Arshed. And welcome to Reap the Week. But first, a quick thank you to our members at In Theory BJJ Concept Driven Jiu-Jitsu for fight commentary, technique and concept videos, private coaching, monthly webinars, and Q&A sessions. Please visit www.patreon.com/intheorybjj. Suddenly I'm not optimistic because it both says 0% uploaded, Knack.
Yeah, well, no, mine says 99%.
Okay, maybe it's just mine. So, listeners, the reason why it's been quiet recently is because it's all just been falling apart. So the last one just didn't sync, and then the one before that I was unwell. We have tried to do this podcast a couple of nights this week, and nothing would work. It wouldn't settle, and and it's already saying weird stuff. Is yours saying it's uploading?
Yeah, 99%, and yours says 57%.
Okay, so let's just hope for the best. That's all I want. How are you, dude?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm okay. Like I say, just before we came on, like my back, it hurt for so long, but we're finally at a point where I think I can actually roll. I can roll pretty hard again. You know, just until the next part falls apart and I can't do shit. There are questions in Jimmy's bag. But first, some reason I've just had this like thorn in my brain all day, and I was like, I have to just say it. I have to say it. But it's kind of linked to one of the questions. So I'm going to use the question as a kind of like soft setup, and then just fucking rant.
Go hard.
Go hard. Okay. That's kinky, but sure.
You took it the wrong way.
What characteristics should a black belt have?
Oh, what characteristics? I don't know. Well, you suits you better because obviously you've promoted people to black belt. I haven't promoted anyone to black belt yet.
That's a very good point. I'd say, okay, a couple of parts of this, but one part I'm going to go rant mode. But I said it to you when you got your brown belt, is that technically, on a technical level, like as a roller, I saw you as a black belt. Like you were already an absolute pain in the ass to deal with, and you understood the game. But I said that no black belt comes out of nowhere, and what do you want to be known as a competitor or a instructor, a coach, a seminar taker, or whatever. And now, I can't really show you much more. You're a peer. So how can I help you on the next part of your journey? And yeah, try to open up those doors of you, like Raul, and try to, get you coaching elsewhere. And yeah, I think that's one of the things behind it. I'd say that, like we've talked about this before, I think I've learned more since I got my black belt than I did all the years prior.
Yeah, I would say the same.
Which is so strange because you think, oh no, black. I always thought, oh, you got your black belt and you finished it. But I remember hearing this when I was, in Japanese jiu-jitsu, as in all the other belts were essentially setting me up to then have that base knowledge in, Japanese jiu-jitsu to then formulate ideas. And that's what the purpose of the black belt was. It wasn't the end of the journey, it was the start. And I can really get that now with BJJ. It was more of a case of you understand the game, and now you can start to formulate it. Now you can start to put things together in a concrete way. And yeah, from deep diving into it the way we have, like I've learned so much more in the past 5 years of being a black belt than the 10 years prior. It's insane.
Yeah,
It
is mad. It is mad.
I mean, it's very easy, I think, to rest on your laurels as a black belt. And kind of like, well, yeah, I'm a black belt, so it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, if you love this sport enough, then you dive into it deeper and you go, wow, it's holy shit. Why did I get a black belt? I was essentially a white belt compared to what I know now. But I'd say, going back to Chris Halter's kind of quote of, it's not who's good, it's who's left. That's the characteristics of a black belt, is the fuckers who don't leave.
Yeah, that's true,
Essentially, what's the characteristics of a black belt? Stupid enough that they don't know how to leave. But then this goes on to the rant that I warned you about. Okay?
Go on.
And it's sticking like a thorn in my brain, and I had to say it. It's changed my perspective on things. Well, no, half changed it. I had this kind of train of thought anyway, but I've suddenly really not discredited. That's not the right word. I don't feel competition should be as important as it is. Like, we shouldn't revere competition as much. We shouldn't hold it in such a high regard.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, Chris? What do you mean? So it was a pondering and conversations I've had, and sitting there philosophically. Sport is very so we're from Staffordshire in the UK. You're from Stoke-on-Trent. I'm from Stafford, and they're not middle-class towns. They have middle-class elements, but we are more north than south. We get hit by... I mean, I think I remember hearing that the difference between the richest parts of the UK and the poorest parts of the UK are the same as the difference between the richest and poorest parts of Europe. As in, the spread is so massive across the UK. And parts of the UK that we're from, can be quite impoverished, pretty hard. And so one thing about sport is that it is an endeavour you can only enjoy if you can afford it. Some sports worse than others. I mean, I remember hearing a joke years ago that the Winter Olympics is funny because when you see them fail, it's just rich people failing. Because at least in the regular Olympics, they can send, poorer nations can send, just athletes who are just, it's very simple games to compete in, and they can compete in them, like swimming or track events, etc. But when it comes to Winter Olympics, no, those people have to train on mountains, and have all that equipment. So when you see them fail, it's rich people failing. But that's the majority of sport anyway. Like if you are very working class and you're having to work so much to just provide for your family, then can you engage in a sport? Do you have the time? Do you have the funding? And then you take that even further to some like competition. And we've said it before about stuff like people are asking, have Chris or have Naki or any of his students competed at Worlds? So, well, wait there. So we've got to, get to America. That's not cheap. B, we've got to pay for IBJJF membership and the entry fees to get there. Paying for a hotel in Vegas, not cheap. And then we've got to, if you're going to compete that seriously, you got to have the funding to be able to spend time at home, eat good food, have, high quality food, high quality nutrition, go to gyms outside, and have the time outside of work to do that, train more, etc. Have the equipment that fits the IBJJF uniform policy. And you think if you're from a more working class background, from a working class area, can you even do that? Morally, you might be able to scrape some money together, But just think that you're going to go to Worlds as some sort of underdog story and win first time round. No, you've got to keep doing it. And, if you've got a young family, we've both got kids, like, morally, could you go there? The idea that you may have one fight and it could all be fucked. And you think that money could go to your kids. And then you bring that down to such a smaller level of competing in general, when you've got like, 40, 50 pounds to go to a competition or whatever. And that could be a day out for your kids. You're going to get a mass-produced medal if you win, and maybe one if you fucking lose, and you get a participation trophy, etc. And then that kind of it's one of the things that we do at the gym. We've always been aware of this, and so it's always been a case of we leave the tin open. If you can pay. If you can't, don't. I'd rather you be here on our mats, because we're a social club with a jiu-jitsu problem, and the idea that someone wouldn't even partake because they couldn't afford it. And then it kind of brings me back round to fucking who shall not be named clubs, organisations that are like, no, jiu-jitsu for everyone. Apart from if you have to have the money, though, to pay for our ridiculous fucking fees and our ridiculous fucking uniform policy. Like, the idea of those like uniform policies, like, no, we had to have it so everyone looks the same on our mats. It creates discipline. Fuck you, cunts. Don't you dare say the jiu-jitsu's for everyone. Then jiu-jitsu's for everyone who can fucking afford it.
Woosah. Feel better now.
Dude, like, that's just sticking a thorn on my head. I'm kind of glad that even by half accident we've kind of hit where we are.
Oh, I agree with you.
I'm happy. We haven't put our prices up in 13 years. Fuck inflation. And it's always been the case of, like I say, I don't want people to come to me cap in hand saying, "Oh, Chris, I'm, can't afford it right now." I'm like, I don't care. Like, money's embarrassing. I'd rather it be a case of, if you're either going to be at home sad, and I'm not going to be getting any money out of you, or you're going to be on our mats with your friends. And if you can be just an hour, give us an hour and a half of your time. Don't pay for it. We want you on our mats. You're a fucking friend. But then that's what I mean. It kind of changed my perspective on competition. That there's people who, even though they might be able to afford class and stuff, but the idea that they can, travel to a competition or be able to fund it, and if they've got a young family and stuff like that, and they're having work issues, the idea that their progress in jiu-jitsu is limited by the fact that you didn't have the money to go compete, or that's just going to hold you back. When we've got absolute savages. I'm not, saying this is about anyone in the gym, but I'm saying as a general thing, as in you can have people who are absolute animals on the mats, yet, they don't want to say they can't compete for whatever reason, yet you hold them back for it. Again, like, it's creating that money creates a barrier to these things. So going back to what I said about what's the criteria for being a black belt, someone who can fucking fund staying at jiu-jitsu, like, depending on what school you go to, like, someone who's got the money to keep going, essentially. Like, that's the criteria for a black belt, unless you got a school that fucking cares and goes, you know what, we work together, and when things are good, maybe you'll help us out too. But we, I can't deny Pete, like, as much as you can say, like, oh, what's the criteria for being a brilliant coach, world class athlete? Well, someone who can fucking afford it. What's the criteria for being a black belt? Someone who can fucking pay for lessons.
Quite simply.
Yeah, and if the criteria for being a black belt as well, someone who competes a lot, then you are really saying that you can't get a black belt in jiu-jitsu unless you got money, son. Or girl.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah,
sometimes when I hear the fees, mate, and how much some gyms charge for certain things, I'm like, wow, I wouldn't be able to afford it, man.
No, although how it goes, it's also it's like framed in a way of like, oh yeah, but we do outreach to poorer children and stuff like that. Cool, well done. You do outreach to poorer children, like you had some sort of jiu-jitsu scholarship and shit. But half the time it isn't that. It's the fucking parents coming in. Again, we've got kids, and like we both did We Europeans once, and I felt guilty ever since.
Yeah, it does cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it does. Because you're flying to Rome, staying in Rome, capital of Italy, not a cheap place. And like, I go there, I've prepped for ages, and I fly to Rome, stayed in Rome, paid entry, what was like €100 back then or whatever it was, to get my nose broken in the first 2 fucking minutes. Straight out, done. Well done. Worth it. And that could have been, 400 or 500. I'm not saying, parents can't, take some time and money for themselves. But again, it's like you got to frame that in your own head. So yeah, it was a war. Yeah, it was sticking. I was reading that question, and just the whole thing became like a fucking thorn. I was like, I need to get this out of me. It's fucking eating at me. Your thoughts? Your thoughts now? I'm gonna just decompress. I'm gonna drink some coffee. I want to hear what your thoughts are
On the black belt thing, or just
just
what
that
you
whole
just
thing.
said?
The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on people's goals as well. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, we've got to make it accessible for as many people as we can. But then there's a lot of people nowadays who come into it purely because they want to compete because they love it so much. So they might hold the competition to a higher standard. But I fully agree with you because nobody gives a shit, man. Like, you compete, you can win whatever, the world. Like, the next day, nobody cares. Like, everybody, the world moves forward and it moves so fast. It's nothing, man. It's nothing. People put, a lot of these things on such a high pedestal in their lives. And, if they lose or something, they just get so butthurt about it. They beat themselves up about it and, just ruin their present moments. You know what I mean? Just learn from things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of glad like we have kind of a luta livre, catch wrestling kind of historical aspect to our gym, because we've always been that case. I mean, you think of the history of jiu-jitsu versus luta livre, and it was rich kids versus poor kids. It was the ones that could afford gis versus the ones that couldn't. Ones that couldn't did luta livre, and the ones that could afford gis did jiu-jitsu. And the rich kids could arrange the competitions. They chose the rules. That's why we don't have leg locks. And there's always been that kind of like little bit of a undercurrent in our gym of, you know what, we don't give a shit. Just fucking come in and train. Like, it's like boxing gyms. Boxing gyms are always brilliant for that. As in, you pay, put your £2 on the door, put your gloves on. We'll look after you. Or like wrestling, going to Rangers, it was the same stuff. Like, it was pretty much like £3, get on the mats and start running, kind of thing. Like that's as it should be. And any illusions that we have in jiu-jitsu that we're like that, like we're scrappy sport. No, we're fucking not. Like, shut up. Like, gis aren't cheap, and unless you get like hand-me-downs or second hands and stuff. But if you're in a certain fucking shield, nope, sorry. Prepare to be fucking hurt. For what reason? Uniformity, discipline, fuck off. Fucking cunts. Like, sorry, do not say jiu-jitsu for everyone and then shut that door like that hard. It's like, oh, jiu-jitsu for everyone, but you're poor. Like, no. And then, like, we have attendance cards and stuff like that. Like, oh, you get your next strike if you attend enough. Like, okay, cool. So because I can't come to class because I work so much for my family or can't afford it, then fuck me, right? It's actually, it was one of the realizations. I think it's because of living, having kids that were born under Tory rule of the cost of everything, the value of nothing, realizing that how much music is actually, or these days especially, is from people from non-state schools, which is so strange. Like how much, because it's people like especially bands and stuff, even rock bands. You think more edgy, etc. No, like being able to go afford a fucking guitar since austerity kicked in. And how much of that stuff's been driven out of schools. Like anything art-based like that. Like, come on then. Like, you tell me some kid who can, some kid who wants to be punk or something, who can go and afford a guitar, his family could afford a guitar, and they could afford lessons or just learning it at school. That stuff's driven out. The kind of like romantic idea that you go find one like behind a dumpster and you're just gonna become this rock legend. Fuck off. Like it doesn't work that way. And like finding a friend that has a drum kit, like the only reason they've got a drum kit is because they've got a house that can fucking fit one. Yeah, it's the whole thing. Like it's illusions just come crashing down at that point, and it's there's a criteria for being a black belt, not a cunt.
I was going to say, don't be a cunt.
Yeah, and someone who fucking cares about everyone who walks in the gym. Like, there we go. That's a criteria for you. I mean, it is what it is, hey?
Yeah, as always.
Here we go. Here's another one. We'll move on, because I could be here all night just fucking screaming into this microphone otherwise. How do you stop being fucking anxious and just show up? Asking for a friend. Cool. And I know who sent it as well. Makes it even funnier. Because I've been telling him for so fucking long to show up to things. And because he's good. How do you stop being anxious, Knack?
Just fucking get in your car and then that's it. You'll make your way. It's simple, man.
I think. Well, that's the thing. Like, it's someone. It was one of the Globetrotters coaches. He's an Estonian, another Estonian coach. He said it at a camp years ago. It was one of Preet's camps. He said, I think he's a sports psychologist or something. He said, "What is anxiety? Anxiety is the reason you're alive. Like, it's only because your ancestors went, 'What's that noise in the bush?' that they weren't eaten, and so." You are the product of generations of anxiety. The ancestors that went, it's nothing, got eaten, and the ancestors that went, yeah, I'm sure that berry's fine, are the ones who got poisoned. You are the reason. Anxiety is the reason you're here, and so, but all our food's good, and there are no tigers anymore, and so. I don't mean just in this country. I mean just in general, we've wiped them out. They don't exist anymore. We're making all the predators extinct, so we're much more safe now. We're destroying their planet. Yeah, and so it's got to go somewhere. And so we put it into the weirdest of places. And it's one of the most helpful things I've ever heard. And you go, oh yeah, that's why I'm a super anxious person, because I keep looking for tigers. And it's then down to us, because everyone's got that built in. We manage it differently, but it's built into all of us. It's up to the gym. Then go, right, actually, no, there are no tigers here. You're safe. You can come in. You won't die. That's why I think the anti-anxiety video was a fucking good idea, because the amount of people I've spoken to about that since and gone, oh, yeah. Like, there was a couple of times I even came to the car park and then left, because I was just anxious about coming in.
Yeah, it's the knowing the unknown in it, so it kind of gets them to a bit eased.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what's behind there? Tigers? But it's like there's so many things that could just put people off. Like, would I be able to park my car? Or what's it gonna be like when I get in there? Is there changing rooms? And it's stuff like that. Just like, you know what? That's one of the fucking most useful ideas we've ever had. Of like, let's make, because I know Johnny Buck did it, and I was like, okay, let's see where we can go with it. But it's like, what was it? It took me a bit of editing to put together. It was just a basic video of like, when you arrive, this is what the car park looks like. This is where you're going. Park your car here. This is the entrance, just so you don't get lost. When you come in, you've got changing rooms. This is what a first class looks like. This is what's going to come towards the end. This is what I look like. This is I'm one of the main coaches. There's that kind of stuff. Doesn't have to be complicated. Just the things that could just trip people up on the way. We've got to make those safe environments.
Yep.
Man, if us 7 years ago could hear us now.
We've grown and we've matured as human beings.
Matured. Yes, I think that's the case. We've grown. We were just going fucking pussies. It's not built for you then, is it?
Yeah. Seriously, we were like, pussies.
I know. But this is growth. And the whole like macho bullshit of jiu-jitsu sometimes of like, no, you got to be fucking tough if you're going to do a sport. Yeah, no. Like, no, you don't have to be. It's a fucking game. Yeah, it's a game that fucking hurts, but it's a good game. Next question. Oh, there's so many questions. Maybe you can make heads or tails of this one. Gauging someone's situational awareness and the ability to act on it to determine grade/skill.
Say that again.
Gauging someone's situational awareness and the ability to act on it to determine their grade/skill.
So I think they're asking how their situational awareness affects their grading. Or
Yes.
how to ascertain their skill level. Situational awareness, in what way?
I'd say that's just more like, unless they're talking it from like a Gracie combatives, self-defense kind of perspective, at which point,
Oh,
what?
yeah.
No, let's not approach that one.
No.
We'll try and be polite as possible on that one. But when it comes to situational awareness, like, well, that's just how you roll. Like, if you roll better and don't get stuck in shit, like, and so it's very easy to kind of gauge it. Like, how often do you get stuck in shit? A lot. Oh, that's not good. And then it's, again, like, the more I do this, the more I talk to people and the more aware I become of how I communicate with people, the more I realize that all failings in students are my fault. Like, you don't really have many dumb students. They might seem it. They might seem as thick as shit, but it's down to, like, they're operating on a certain frequency, and it's my job to kind of find that frequency to be able to communicate with them and get the ideas across. And it's, if they can meet me halfway, great. But it's my job is to do that, is to communicate, and get these ideas into people. And that's why sometimes you can have people who just understand other coaches better. It's not that student was thick; it's just their communication style didn't mesh with yours, or maybe you're just a shit coach. And so when it comes to people's situational awareness and ability to act upon it, that's completely down to the coaching. As in, if you're able to create the correct environment that allows people to gain situational awareness, like if you're just teaching them dead technique and dead drills and just throwing them into sparring, then there's not much. That's how they grow their situational awareness. But if you can create the conceptual drills, the ones that use varied multi-method tools, that's interesting. That might improve their situational awareness, because then they're doing it more often. They're working that part of their brain.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yes, I thought so too. when are you doing a podcast with Josh McKinney again? He even retweeted one of our podcasts.
I know. That's brilliant of him.
I know. I really like Josh. I had to have a chat with him. I miss being on his podcast. Next question. Any advice on teaching BJJ to kids/teens?
Oh, fucking hell.
Games. Fucking
Games, yeah.
games.
You got to keep them active, man. They cannot sit there for longer than a minute. So I avoid showing them any techniques that take longer than a minute to show, you know what I mean?
100% games, 100% of the time. I don't mean just like come in and just play shithouse games. I mean actually like things that you have to be super inventive. Like today, like, you know, I wanted them to get used to keeping their legs up and working their legs for, like, you know, and kind of their leg dexterity. So I gave them all a little beanbag and told them to put their feet in the air, bounce the beanbag on one foot, and then pass the beanbag from one foot to the other, like on the soles of their feet.
Yeah, I was watching. I was like, "Oh, this looks interesting."
I was doing it. It even killed my abs. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, and then showed them like how to you know, move it around gracefully and have that kind of like level of self-control. Then watching them bring their legs in and use it afterwards, I was like, motherfucker, you just got to be inventive with that shit.
Yeah,
games, all games.
Yeah,
Teenagers,
100%.
yeah, you can chuck them in the deep end a little bit, but kids, it's all games. Do not try and make kids drill. Like, do not think you can take adult. Don't drill anyway. Techniques are shit. And don't teach kids submissions.
Yeah.
Don't you teach adult submissions. They're stupid too. Here we go. How much do you give suggestions on specific grips, levers, etc. during games? Pretty sure all I've ever said was grab bones and say over and around and through and get access to the spine. That's it.
Yeah, that's usually what we're shouting, aren't we, really?
Yeah, that's it. And we just create games about getting past the elbows.
Flanking.
Yeah, flanking, staying in stance. That's a big one. Being disciplined with it. And that's, I think that's so big right now is all the stuff we're saying, like, you know, especially in the beginner course, which I have to say, dude, did you see episode 1?
Yeah.
Dude, fucking production quality on that thing.
I know.
I have to, like, toot my own horn on that one. But yeah, it's the if you keep it simple and keep those, you know, simple concepts there, like over, under, round, and through, get the fuck up, etc. It's just discipline after that. Like, you know, if I'm saying to someone, keep your weight on their fucking hips, and they go, I'm going to go for the shoulders, and then they lose. Like, you know what? You know why you lost? It's not because it's not because you don't know the technique. Like, you know the technique. We know you know the technique because you just did the technique because you got no fucking discipline. And if that's the reason you're losing is because you got no fucking patience. Like, don't know how I can help you now. Like, accept that you're shit because you have no discipline.
Yeah, discipline, big one, big thing.
So you've got no self-control. That's it. Like, that's the only reason. Like, yeah, but I just see red. I see dickhead. That's about it.
What have you taken today, Chris? You're supercharged.
What do you mean? I know. Maybe we're doing it half an hour earlier. And that's why. So we're going to hit 11:30. I'm just going to drop. Oh, no. I think I've just had thorns in me today. It's unpleasant. Just not accepting bullshit. Yeah, I'd say that, like, as long as the concept's simple with grips and levers, like over and around and through the elbows, because guard passing is just hand fighting against someone who's got really good dexterity with their feet. That's it. Same rules apply. That middle joint, knees or elbows, get past it, gain access to the spine. Just make sure you're doing really useful hand fighting drills. That works on stance and posture. And have some discipline.
That's the main thing, the discipline.
It is, isn't it? It is. And we've talked about it before, like, when you, pre-split, and like I'd say, like, why don't you do that? You go, I don't know. I'm like, well, okay, cool. I think you remember that comp. Like, you had a bit of a bad run. And I came back and I watched the video. I was like, why don't you do that? You went, I don't know. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, funny. Is there anything you'd like to rant about? Because is there anything like you? Because I have these things that burrow into my brain like worms, and I can't get them out. Are there any things that do that to you that just make you want? Is it? Because there's a ranting Chris corner. I think the other side should be a ranting Naki corner.
To be fair, at the moment, no, there isn't much that I want to rant about or anything that's come up. My last rant was about the whole, changing the rules with the guard pulling shit. Well, that's my biggest peeve with jiu-jitsu at the moment. Nothing else.
Oh, okay. I think. Please, listeners, I'm easy to wind up. Anything like socially injustice-wise like that, or like unfair. Oh, I'm all over that bitch. But I think Naki needs some too. Like, you've heard his weakness. It's guard pulling. So sending questions that will cause him to lose his marbles. Like,
Shit. I should have said that.
I want to be inundated next podcast with just like, when I put that thing on Instagram saying, what are your questions? I want to be like, how does Naki feel if like ADCC gave 5 points to the first person that pulled guard, and you're just like, he's just exploding?
That would never happen. That day, if that happened, jiu-jitsu would be finished, or submission grappling would be finished.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Burn the sport. Burn it to the ground. Yeah. I think it's funny. I can't wait to see what happens if we can just. We'll have a Chris loses his marbles corner, and we'll have a Naki loses his marbles more corner. You're too zen right now. Can't have that. I can't be the angry one.
It's your turn today.
Yeah, it is. No, I'm not poorly. Oh, I'm so glad this worked. I was even sitting there today, just going, I hope the system, the website, the recording equipment doesn't fuck up, because if I don't get this out of my head tonight, I'm going to lose my shit tomorrow. So I'm so happy that this worked. I'm so happy we could finally talk and just, go for these questions and just recharge zen. There's one more question I need to ask.
Go on.
You haven't done one yet. Question is, which Globetrotters camp? Someone said, which Globetrotters camp would be a good recommendation to go to? And people keep asking me when I go to these camps, because they listen to this, where's Naki? When's Naki coming? So would you go to one?
Yeah, of course, man. I would. It's just, what my life is like. I'm just so busy, man, with so many things.
Dude, like every time, like because you occasionally put things requesting help on Facebook, but stuff like it seems so out of the ordinary. Like, you put something up online, like, has anyone got access to, I don't know, like, something that can take 3 bodies and wood chipper them into mulch?
No, don't do this.
In the Cornwall area. Like, does someone have access to some railway beams? And an industrial sander. I'm like, what is he doing?
My fingers are in many pies. That's all I can say.
As my nose are popping up, I'm just like, what is happening? What is he doing?
I tried to
I get the feel of like, I get a rough beat on like, okay, Naki does this out of like jiu-jitsu, and then something completely out of like fucking left field comes up like, what does he do? Like this is like, you know, like, remember that game like it's like an old 80s 90s program where you'd answer questions or something and like a little board would pop up. I think they had it in America as well. It was like a great big. It was like a picture, and you released it one picture, like one square at a time. And you had to guess the picture by the end. Like that's yours, but every time like a new square opens, it's something completely unrelated to the other ones. And I'm like, the fuck is happening in this?
Mate, I get nowadays if somebody asks me what do you do for a living, I just say, look, I'm a consultant, and they ask me what do you consult on, I'm like many things.
I consult. You shut the fuck up. That's what I consult. it's like there's ones before, like, you know, watching that, you know, seeing memes of that program, and it's like, it's, you know, picture of like this head like bobbing side to side, then, you know, somewhere else is like a snake getting like shaken around, and people are like, what is happening? That's what it feels like with your Facebook posts. As in, I'm trying to get this like picture of your life, and every now and then I'm like, nope. Like, no idea now. That's fucking thrown me.
He's doing something else now.
Yeah, like, why has that appeared? This doesn't make any sense.
This is why I do jiu-jitsu, man, so I can escape. Jiu-jitsu is my escape, so I can fucking leave all this shit and go away somewhere, man.
And we come full circle back to the beginning, like, because we're all fucked. We're all in fucking awful places all of the time, doing the weirdest shit to survive. And the idea that there are weird people out there going through weird shit, and we're denying them access to something that will just fucking give them a safe space just because they can't fucking afford it. Again, I will reiterate this, and I'll sing it. And this is how I want to finish this podcast. Any of you who block that, you're cunts. I think someone once complained about how much profanity was on the YouTube videos.
I'm not surprised.
I'm like, well, what did you expect? It's called Villaincast. And El Jefe. Although it has become more El Jefe recently.
I know, because of chefing people up, apparently.
Yeah, for cooking people. It's like, why do they call you El Jefe? Because I cook people. That's not calling the fucking cannibal. Anyway, good night. Thank you again for always taking part in this.
No problem.
It's always a pleasure, sir.
Say in a bizzle.